So, Liam, what are we to make of these figures?
This isn't all bad news. I try and bring a ray of sunshine to the programme. Pretty grim news agenda at the moment, blimey. But the UK economy is growing, as we heard from the ONS this morning. The graphic here shows what's happening. Between January and March, the economy expanded just by 0.1% compared to the same three-month period in 2022. And in April, it was up 0.2%. A recession is when the economy is shrinking for 2 successive quarters for 6 months. The UK isn't shrinking, it isn't in recession. The Eurozone at the moment, interestingly, is recession, with the powerhouse Germany suffering from those really high energy prices. And on top of that, more, I wouldn't say good news, but it's better than nothing. The wage data, we had this wage data yesterday, Stephen. We've seen wages go up in March by 6.7% compared to the same month a year before. In April, they were at 7.2%. That's still less than inflation, but that's the highest rate of wage increase in over 20 years. Now, that's good news if you're getting a wage increase. These are averages, but it's really spooked the Bank of England. The Bank of England now talking, warning...
They talk about wage inflation, don't they?
There's this thing in economics called a wage price spiral. That's when wage claims push up firms' costs. Those firms' costs push up prices in the shops, which push up wage claims again, and they spiral upwards. There is now evidence we are in some kind of wage price spiral. And when those wage numbers came out yesterday, Stephen, of course, we were all focused rightly on what was going on in Nottingham. But it's worth saying what happened on bond markets was pretty hairy. Have a look at this graphic here. Now, this shows what are called gilt yields. Bear with me. This is what the government has to pay to borrow. This is how much the government has to pay each year to borrow for 2 years. You see there in September, the gilt yield was up at 4.67%. That was during that mini budget when the Tories, to coin a Labour phrase, crashed the economy. But look at the gilt yield now with those high wage numbers. It's above where it was during the Truss Kwarteng mini budget. Why? Because financial markets are really worried the Bank of England is going to have to push up interest rates even more. About 3 weeks ago, the financial markets were predicting interest rates at the Bank of England, they're currently 4.5%, would peak at around 5.25%. Not anymore. And this is the bad news. Financial markets are now predicting that interest rates could peak at 6%. That has a big knock-on effect to anybody with personal debts on a variable rate, and particularly people who are coming to the end of a fixed-rate mortgage, and there are hundreds of thousands of them each month trying to remortgage. Their payments will go up quite a lot.
So, I mean, just briefly, how does this then work against those economists who make the argument that the level of inflation we're seeing is actually not driven by our normal spending, that raising interest rates won't curtail anything because the spending is going on essentials that we can't curtail? Right.
The Bank of England, it took so long to get going with interest rate rises and to admit that inflation was a problem. It's now, I think, overcompensating, and it has to be seen to raise rates a lot to see that it's serious about reining in inflation. I've got a lot of sympathy with the idea that the Bank of England should actually wait. It's already raised interest rates 12 times in a row. It takes time for these interest rates to feed through. Having said that, if the Bank of England doesn't raise interest rates, the next decision, by the way, is next Thursday, then markets will punish them even more. And that's the problem that we're in. It's a kind of like a game of psychology. But the bottom line is that, yes, the British economy is growing. Yes, that's good. But higher wages mean that there's higher interest rates to come.
OK. Liam, thanks very much indeed. You always bring a bit of sunshine, but a few showers to go with it. That's the trouble. We'll see you in the next hour.
Cheers.
Thank you.